I was traveling for a big project presentation. 2 nights ago, I found myself stuck in a budget hotel with peeling wallpaper and flickering lights. It was late, and I needed to finish last-minute edits. I thought it wouldn't matter that it was cheap. It was close to the conference center. I started working, tapping away at my keyboard. The clock ticked away. It was around 2 a.m. when my phone rang. I answered it and heard a frantic voice. "Your hotel card was declined. You owe us $9,000. I thought it was a prank, so I laughed. But the voice was serious. His tone changed. It became sharper. He demanded the money immediately, or there would be consequences. My heart raced. I hung up, confusion swirling around in my mind. Who was that? I tried to brush it off, convinced it was just a scam. The next morning, I woke up feeling uneasy. Something was off. I checked my phone and saw strange text messages I didn't remember getting. "You can only fight once, Mark." My skin crawled. I dismissed it as a joke. As I left my room, I noticed shadows in the dimly lit hallway. Had I really seen them? I paused. My breath caught in my throat. The fluorescent lights buzzed above me. My heart thudded. Maybe my mind was playing tricks on me. When I got to the lobby, the staff looked odd. They whispered and exchanged glances. Other guests fidgeted, all of us sharing an unspoken fear. Did I upset someone? I couldn't shake the feeling I was in danger. As night approached, the hotel felt wrong. Shadows crept along the walls. Fear tightened in my chest. That voice haunted me. What if it wasn't a prank? What if I really owed money? And what if I didn't pay? There was a knock at my door. My heart dropped. Who was it? Should I open it? I turned the knob slowly. My stomach knotted. I peeked through the peephole. I didn't see anyone. I hesitated. Then I heard something scratch against the door. I felt my pulse quicken. What was happening? "Mark!" A voice whispered on the other side. It sent chills down my spine. How did they know my name? "Let me in. You can't hide." I jumped back, panic setting in. I wanted to scream, but no sound came out. I glanced at my phone, hoping to call for help, but there was no reception. The knocking grew louder. "Mark, open the door!" My instinct screamed at me to run, but where would I go? I felt trapped. I looked around the room. Everything felt wrong. I pressed myself against the wall, hoping to vanish. The knocking stopped. Silence filled the air. And then, oddly, I could hear breathing. Someone was on the other side, waiting. I didn't know what they wanted. I didn't want to find out. What if I didn't like who was on the other side? I stood frozen, the weight of the moment crashing down on me like a wave. The breathing grew louder, almost mocking. The voice on the other side took on a more menacing tone. "Mark, I know you're in there. Don't make this harder than it has to be." Every muscle in my body screamed for me to do something. Run, hide, fight. I could hear my heartbeat pulsing in my ears. I forced myself to look around the room. The window was locked, the closet offered no refuge, and the bathroom felt too small to truly hide in. "Mark," the voice called again, softer now, but still urgent. "I just want to talk. Open the door, and we can get this sorted out." I hesitated. What could they possibly have to say that would make this any better? My mind raced through possibilities. An envelope filled with cash? Consequences I couldn't afford. I felt trapped in a nightmare and I couldn't wake up. Suddenly I remembered the strange text messages. "You can only fight once." What did that even mean? I backed away from the door and stumbled against the bed, my breath coming in quick bursts. Then my phone buzzed. I rushed to grab it, desperate for any distraction. But there was no service, Just a message waiting for me. An unknown number. My fingers moved fast, and I opened it. The words sent another jolt of fear through me. If you don't pay, I'll send someone to collect. Panic clawed at me. I scrambled for a plan. I could pack my things and slip out, but where would I go? I glanced at the door again, debating whether to confront whoever waited on the other side. I took a deep breath and decided to open the door. I needed answers. Slowly, I turned the handle and pulled the door open. It swung wide, but the hallway was empty. I stepped out cautiously, scanning for movement. The flickering lights cast eerie shadows across the walls. Every instinct told me to retreat, but I pushed forward, feeling the adrenaline surge through me. "Hello?" I called, my voice echoing in the faint emptiness. I felt foolish, inviting danger. Suddenly I heard a noise. A door down the hall creaked open. I froze as a figure stepped into view. It was one of the hotel staff, a tall man with a grim expression. He looked at me with a mix of sympathy and fear. "Mark," he said quietly, "you need to get out of here." His words propelled a jolt of urgency through me. "What do you mean?" "There's no time. Just go now. They're coming." Before I could ask who they were, he turned and rushed back down the hallway. My heart dropped as dread rushed in. I felt exposed. The walls felt like they were closing in around me. That's when I saw it. A shadow moving at the end of the corridor, lurking, watching. A chill washed over me. I turned and raced back into my room, slamming the door shut. This was no longer just a prank or a bizarre misunderstanding. I needed to act fast. But as I backed away from the door, I heard footsteps echoing, heavy and determined. Someone was coming for me. The footsteps stopped. The sudden silence felt alive, buzzing with tension. I held my breath, ears straining for any additional sounds. I glanced at the door, heart racing. I needed to know what was happening out there. The ominous voice returned. "Mark, this is your last chance. They're closing in." I felt the urgency in their words, but it only deepened my confusion. Who were they? What did they want? I looked around the room again, searching for something, anything that could help me. My eyes landed on the window, and for a moment, I considered making a run for it. But the ground below seemed far too distant, and I wasn't sure how many eyes were watching closely. Instead, I grabbed my phone again. No service. I cursed under my breath. That text was a warning, but it didn't tell me how to escape. I couldn't let them take me. I wasn't ready to surrender. Suddenly, the room's dim light flickered, then went out completely. Darkness enveloped me, punctuated only by the distant sound of footsteps echoing closer. Panic surged. I needed to keep my head clear, but the anxiety roared in my ears. I stumbled toward the door, groping for the handle. I had to know if they'd come into the hall. I held my breath and pressed my ear against the cold wood, listening for any signs of movement. A soft groan of metal alerted me. The sound of the doorknob turning. I stepped back just as the door groaned open, and a tall figure stood silhouetted in the doorway. The flickering emergency lights cast a ghastly glow. My heart dropped. I couldn't see their face, but I could feel the weight of their presence punctuated by a low, menacing laugh. "Thought you could hide? You should know better than that," the figure said, stepping into the room with an unsettling calm. I turned and sprinted toward the bathroom, but the figure blocked my path. Cornered. I felt my back hit the wall, every instinct shouting at me to fight, to run, to do something. I had no idea what they wanted, but the air turned thick with tension. Then, to my shock, the figure raised a cell phone, illuminating their face. A calm, sinister smile spread across their lips. Relax, Mark. We just want a little chat. About what? I spat, my courage faltering. They took a step closer, eyes locked in on me. About your debt. They replied smoothly, raising an eyebrow as if I should know what they meant. I don't know what you're talking about, I blurted, but I felt the truth tugging at the edges of my thoughts. How little preparation I'd made. How deep I had dipped into something dangerous. Let's see if that's true, they said coolly, glancing toward the door as if gauging an opportunity. In that moment, I knew I had to act. I took a deep breath and lunged past them, pushing my way into the hallway. But everything went black again. The lights flickered back on just as I heard a shout. I turned back to see the figure scrambling after me. Panic surged anew. I had to keep moving. With no fixed plan, I sprinted down the corridor, skidding around the corner. But as I reached the end, I skidded to a halt. There was nowhere to go. The end of the hallway met a solid wall, and behind me, the footsteps pounded closer. I glanced back one last time and realized the figure wasn't alone. I was being hunted. The wall loomed behind me, cold and unforgiving. I pressed against it, my breath hitched, feet shifting nervously. The frantic pounding of footsteps drew nearer. I had to think. Panic clawed at my throat, but fear couldn't have the final say. Spotting a doorway to my left, I acted without hesitating. I darted toward it, yanking it open while praying it led to safety. The small room was cluttered with supplies, shelves filled with cleaning supplies, an old vacuum sitting in the corner. No windows. Panic bubbled anew. Just as I stepped inside, I heard the figure's voice ring out in the hallway. You can't hide forever, Mark. They moved with a purpose. I could hear them getting closer. My mind raced. There had to be a way out. I quickly scanned the room. There was no back door. I could barricade myself behind a shelf, but the thought left me feeling more trapped than safe. And every second I wasted made my instinct scream. I had to find a way to escape. Suddenly a thought struck me. I moved to the vacuum. It had a long hose attached, and if I could just... Yes! I ripped off the hose and frantically looked for another way out, anything that could distract them while I slipped away. There was an air vent overhead, a narrow one. It might be tough to fit through, but it was better than facing them head-on. I scrambled up onto the vacuum and reached for the vent cover, gingerly prying it open. Clutching the hose in my other hand, I shoved it into the vent, hoping it would create enough noise to divert their attention. I climbed into the cramped spot, just as the door swung open with a loud creak. "Mark!" the figure shouted, voice glazed with false assurance. This is only going to make things worse. I stifled my breath, pressing myself into the zippered darkness. I could hear them moving through the room, their footsteps heavy with frustration. Come on, you can't avoid the inevitable. Just face us. I listened as they began searching, tossing aside supplies with reckless abandon. My heart raced. I had to hurry. I slid deeper into the vent, using the dim light from my phone to guide me. The air was stale, brisk against my skin, but I gritted my teeth and pushed forward. Then, just as I thought I might make it, a loud crash echoed behind me as the figure overturned the vacuum. My stomach sank. They were getting closer. I hardly had time to think when I stumbled upon a small vent opening that led outside. Relief surged through me as I realized it was closer than expected. I squeezed through the opening, dropping into what seemed to be an alley. The cool air hit me like a splash of revived hope. I was outside, but as I looked around, a sickening dread washed over me. The figure had left the hallway and was now standing near the entrance of the building, scanning the street. Swallowing hard, I ducked behind a dumpster. That's when I saw it, a shadow moving further down the alley. Someone else was out there. But were they friend or foe? I watched the shadow, heart thudding in my chest. The figure was tall, and whether it was a man or woman, I couldn't tell from this distance. They moved cautiously, glancing back to where I knew my pursuer lingered. My mind raced. Should I stay hidden or make a break for it? It felt like a game of chicken. The figure halted and pointed in my direction. My breath caught. Were they aware of me? Sweat dripped down my neck as I pressed further against the dumpster, willing myself to turn invisible. I could hear the faint shuffling sound of their shoes against the pavement. They were coming closer. Then they spoke. I know you're there. You can't hide forever. The voice was shaky, but determined. It wasn't my pursuer. This is bad, I whispered to myself, trying to think of a plan. For all I knew, this new person could be aligned with the one inside. But something inside me urged me to take a chance. I shifted slightly, trying to get a better look. The figure seemed to be scanning the area for signs of movement. I leaned a little more out, trying to assess if there was any retreat route available behind me. Something, anything, to keep me alive. Suddenly I spotted glimmers of metal beneath a nearby dumpster. It was a discarded bicycle. Sturdy enough for a quick getaway if I could just grab it. I took a deep breath, mentally preparing myself. Every nerve was on edge. Hey, if you're out there, I'm not playing with you, the figure yelled again, clearly agitated. I could sense their frustration turning into something else. Fear, perhaps. Before I could hesitate any further, I dove out from my hiding place and dashed toward the hidden bike. I felt the sharp sting of cold air against my skin as adrenaline coursed through my veins. I reached the bicycle, heart racing with hope and dread. "Stop!" the shadow called out. But I was already mounting the bike, pedaling furiously. I glanced over my shoulder and saw the figure sprinting toward me, shouting something I couldn't catch. I focused on the path ahead, the alley widening into a street. With every push of the pedals, I prayed the bike would support my escape. As I burst onto the street, I turned left instinctively, searching for anything to help me outdistance my pursuer. Just as I thought I'd gained some ground, a sudden booming voice echoed through the night. "Mark, you're surrounded. There's nowhere left to run." My heart dropped. I was trapped. I looked around frantically, spotting a narrow side street I'd nearly passed. With no other options, I swerved hard, the tires skidding slightly on the asphalt. As I barreled down this dark passage, my mind raced. Who were these people? And what did they want with me? I had no answers, and yet I was being hunted like prey. Then my heart froze again. A figure stepped into the alley ahead. I slammed the brakes, skidding to a stop. There was no chance to turn around. That's when I saw them clearly. A face from my past, one I had tried to forget. "Mark, we need to talk," they said with a tone that sent chills down my spine. I froze, the bike nearly tipping over from my sudden stop. I couldn't believe it. After all this time, it was them. Sam, my old partner. The partner I hadn't seen in years. The partner I thought I had left behind. "Sam." My voice barely broke above a whisper, but the fear in my chest screamed like a siren. "What are you doing here?" "Look, it's not safe to talk here," they said hurriedly, glancing back toward the direction I'd just come from. "You have to trust me." Trust was a luxury I didn't have. "Why should I believe anything you say? Last time I checked, you were the one that—" I hesitated, unsure how much to reveal. Sam stepped closer, lowering their voice. "I was wrong. Please, just listen." Another shout echoed down the alley, and I could tell they were getting closer. My heart raced again. "Why are they after me?" I chose my words carefully. "What do you want?" Sam shifted nervously. "It's complicated, but what's important is that they think you know something you don't. They want you for reasons you can't understand yet. We need to get out of here." I glanced down the alley. The darkness was closing in, and I could hear footsteps more clearly now. I didn't have time to think. "How do you know that?" "They found me first," Sam answered, breathing hard. "I barely escaped. I thought about you and realized you'd be next on their list." "Next on their—" The pieces of the puzzle were blurry, but I could feel them aligning in a way that sent a chill down my spine. My past felt alive again, and it stung. "What do they want with me?" "I can't explain everything right now," Sam pleaded. "Just know this. We need to move. Over there." Sam pointed to a door that looked like it belonged to a forgotten storage unit. It was barely visible in the dim light, but seemed like the only option left. Before I could make a decision, a sharp shout broke through the tension. "Mark! You can't hide forever!" I felt the cold grip of panic tightening around me. I jumped off the bike, not caring if it fell to the ground. "Go! Now!" Sam grabbed my arm, pulling me toward the door. The footsteps grew louder. I threw open the door and we stumbled inside into pitch darkness. Then everything went still. I heard the distant voices outside, but in that moment, it felt like we were completely alone. Fingers pressed against my lips, urging silence. But just as I tried to take a breath, I felt a presence behind me. I turned sharply, only to find Sam staring wide-eyed. "What is it?" I managed to ask, but they didn't answer. That's when I realized the silence was deeper than mere absence of sound. There was something waiting, lurking in the dark, and it was coming closer. I could feel it. Then I heard a voice from the shadows, chilling and familiar. "You've made a big mistake, Mark." I swallowed hard. That voice sent a shiver down my spine. It felt like a ghost from the past had walked right out of my nightmares. "What do you want?" I managed to ask, my voice barely above a whisper. From the dark, a figure began to emerge, the light from the door barely illuminating a tall silhouette. I could make out the familiar contours of a face I once knew well. "You should have stayed gone, Mark. It would have been easier that way." "Easier for whom?" I shot back, feeling a surge of defiance mixed with my fear. "What do you want with me? Questions won't save you," the figure said, stepping closer. I could see the glare of their eyes now. "They think you have something, but you don't. You were never supposed to be in this. You're just a pawn." I shook my head, trying to make sense of it all. "A pawn? In what game? I don't know anything." "Then you really are in over your head," they said, a smirk playing on their lips. "But I can help you. We don't have to do this the hard way." I felt Sam shift next to me, their presence an anchor but also a reminder of the danger we were in. "You think you can intimidate me?" I sneered, though my heart was racing. "Just leave us alone." The figure's laughter echoed in the small space, chilling me to the bone. "I can't do that, Mark. Your past is tied to something much bigger than you realize, and they won't stop until they find what they're looking for." A loud bang reverberated from the door, startling us. "Mark! Now!" Sam urged, but I was frozen in place. I needed answers, but this wasn't the time. Just then I noticed something glinting in the dim light. An object on the floor, just a few feet away from the figure. It looked like a keycard. Slowly my thoughts raced. If it was what I thought it was, it might just be our way out. I blinked, shifting my focus back to the figure. "What do you know about the hotel?" I asked, urgency infusing my words. "The hotel?" they mocked, tilting their head as if amused. "It's part of the trap. You should have never gone there." "Why? What do you mean? But before they could respond, another crash at the door sent us all reeling, the sound of splintering wood filling the air. Now, Mark, we have to go. Sam grabbed my arm again, this time with more urgency. Suddenly, additional shadows loomed in the doorway. 3 figures, menacing and determined. My pulse quickened. I had to act fast. "Grab the card!" I shouted at Sam, my instincts kicking in. "We need to get out, now!" I lunged toward the glinting card, snatching it up just before I was yanked backward by Sam. Then everything erupted into chaos. We turned and dashed deeper into the storage space, desperation fueling our flight. Behind us, I could hear the ominous voices of the pursuers growing louder, their intentions clear. I glanced back quickly, but the figure remained still, fading back into the darkness with a grin. "You can't run forever, Mark." That taunt echoed in my mind as we sprinted away, the pounding footsteps behind us reminding me of how little time we had left. We needed to find a way out. And fast. I didn't know it yet, but the keycard would open doors. Ones I never thought I'd have to face again. We stumbled through the maze of shelves, tangled in a whirlwind of anxiety and fear. The pounding footsteps behind us grew louder, closer. I could hear the low growls of threats muttered in the shadows, each step a countdown to our capture. "Where are we going?" Sam gasped, her voice strained. "I don't know." I shot back, heart racing as I scanned the darkened space. Any way but back. We veered left, a futile attempt to lose our pursuers. My mind raced, piecing together every clue, every warning. The figure's words hung heavy over me. The hotel was a trap. But why? What did they want with me? In a sharp turn, I saw a flicker of light ahead. The end of the storage room. Hope bloomed briefly before being snuffed out by the looming danger. "There!" I pointed, struggling to catch my breath. The light beckoned like a lighthouse in a storm. We sprinted toward it, and as we neared, my stomach dropped. It was a back exit, but the door was chained shut. Panic surged. We didn't have time. I fumbled with the keycard in my pocket. "Mark, hurry!" Sam urged, glancing back. I could see the figures closing in, shadows tightening like a noose. "I need to try this," I said, frantically locating the card. "Just hold them off." With trembling hands, I approached the door. My mind raced back to how the figure had smirked, clearly enjoying the chaos. I swiped the card against the lock, praying it worked. Nothing happened. "Mark!" Sam was desperate now, shouting something about needing to hold the door. "Do it again!" I swiped again, and my hands felt slick with sweat. "Come on, work!" This time a soft beep echoed, followed by a rush of adrenaline. I pushed, but the door strained against the chain. "It's locked!" Before I could think, I slammed my shoulder into it. The sound of splintering wood sliced through the air, and for a moment, I felt pure rage. I couldn't let them catch us. I couldn't go back to that life. With another violent shove, the door broke free, swinging open into the night. Fresh air rushed in, carrying the scent of wet earth and freedom. "Go! Go!" I yelled, pulling Sam through. But as we stepped outside, I stopped short, eyes widening in horror. A black SUV idled in the glow of a streetlight, its engine purring ominously. The license plate echoed a jarring familiarity, reminding me of the past I thought I'd escaped. Before I could register a plan, a figure stepped from the passenger side. "Going somewhere, Mark?" It was another face from my past, one I never wanted to see again. "Keep running!" Sam shouted. But I was frozen, in shock. I recognized them as one of the last people I'd hoped to forget. The figure smirked, that same twisted satisfaction in their eyes. "You really shouldn't have come back," Now you owe me. Oh, my breath caught. What did they want now? Before I could speak, they advanced, the threat clear in their posture. I turned to Sam, but she was already moving, pulling me away from the clutches of my past. Mark, this way! But I hesitated, battling my instincts. And just then, a siren blared in the distance, breaking the tension. Run! I yelled, forcing myself to obey. We darted down the alley, navigating through shadows. I had no idea what awaited us at the end, but I sensed that whatever was happening was getting much worse. Behind us, the figure's voice chased us into the darkness. You'll regret this, Mark. You're not getting away so easily. As we sprinted on, the weight of their threat loomed over me, and I wondered, what had I set in motion? The alley stretched on, a dark void that swallowed our footsteps. Sam pulled me along, her grip tight, urging me forward. I focused on the sound of our hurried breaths and the fading siren behind us. Where are we going? I gasped, but I didn't really expect an answer. Each turn we took brought us deeper into the unknown. Just keep running, she urged, glancing back, her face a mix of determination and fear. I had never seen her like this before. My heart raced with adrenaline, but my mind spun with memories of that figure and their words. You owe me. The notion felt like a weight tied to my ankle, threatening to pull me back into the abyss. We burst out of the alley and onto a busy street. The blinding lights and honking cars disoriented me for a moment. I shielded my eyes, scanning the crowd for something. Anything that could help us. Over there! Sam shouted, pointing to a coffee shop with bright neon signs. We can hide inside. We pushed through the glass doors, the bell on the counter ringing above us. I glanced around. The place was nearly empty, just a few late-night patrons nursing their drinks. I couldn't shake the feeling that anyone could be watching us, ready to report back on our whereabouts. Stay low, I whispered, leading Sam to a corner booth. We slid in, trying to blend into the shadows. My heart kept drumming in my chest, too loud, too frantic. What do we do now? Sam asked, her eyes wide with panic. I was still trying to collect my thoughts. I thought about calling for help, but the moment the words brushed my lips, I hesitated. Anyone could be working for them. I couldn't trust anyone. Just a minute, I said, pulling out my phone. I could check for messages, if only to see if there was something I'd missed, some warning or clue. I needed answers. As I glanced at the screen, the lock screen flashed a notification. I bit my lip, instinctively turning my phone to Sam. Look at this. A message from an unknown number blinked. It read, We know where you are. Make it to the rendezvous point by dawn, or else. Cold dread pierced through me. What do they want? I don't know, but we can't stay here, Sam replied, her voice nearly cracking. We have to leave, now. At that moment, a familiar figure entered the coffee shop. I held my breath, adrenaline surging once more. I recognized him. It was the same guy from the parking lot. My heart dropped. He scanned the room and I could feel his gaze brush past us before it sharply turned back. Mark, he called out, his voice smooth yet dripping with malice. The hunger in his eyes was unmistakable. There you are. I hoped you'd stick around. I glanced at Sam, her panic mirrored in my own. There was no way out without confronting him. I shifted into a defensive stance, the urgency clawing in my stomach. Look, we don't want any trouble, I called, trying to stall for time. Just let us walk away. Too late for that, he said, gripping something in his pocket, the dark threat all too familiar. You've got something of mine, and I always collect. Run! I screamed to Sam just before the crack of glass shattered the moment, sending shards flying around us. Now we had no choice. It was fight or flight, and time was running out. I barely had a second to register the chaos erupting around us. The shattering glass coated the air with shards of panic and urgency. Sam and I sprang from our booth, adrenaline flooding our veins as we darted toward the back exit. I could hear the figure's demands trailing behind us, his tone low and sinister. "Don't think you can run from this, Mark. I will find you." We burst into the cramped alley behind the coffee shop, the cold air hitting us like a slap. I didn't look back, could barely afford to turn my head. I just ran, each surge of my legs fueled by fear. Sam was right beside me, her determination palpable. "How did they find me?" I gasped, dodging a dumpster and forcing myself to push harder. I could feel the weight of my past tightening its grip. "They must have been tracking your phone," she panted, her voice strained. "We need to get somewhere safe to think. That man is dangerous." My mind raced. Was it my cell service or the hotel? I had dismissed the strange messages as a prank, a harbinger of my own paranoia. Now unrealized regret churned in my gut. This was all my fault. "We should try to find a police station or a public place," I suggested, my breath coming in ragged gasps. But as we turned onto another street, I glimpsed shadows moving at the other end. Panic ignited inside me. "They're following us!" I wheeled around, searching for another escape route. In the distance, I spotted an underground parking garage. "There!" I pointed, pulling Sam to the entrance. The safety of cars felt like a fortress. We slipped inside, praying that the shadows would lose our scent among the vehicles. We rushed down the first aisle, ducking behind a parked car, and listened. The sounds of footsteps echoed through the cavernous space, the clattering of sneakers amplified against the concrete. Holding my breath, I peered through the gap in the car's tinted window. There were two figures standing at the entrance, scanning the rows of parked cars. My heart sank. "Do you think we can make it to the exit without them seeing us?" Sam whispered, her voice tight. "I don't know," I replied, uncertainty gnawing at me like a predator. I could hear the echo of their voices, discussing me like I was a game piece on a board. "You should run. Try to get help and I'll—" "No, we stick together. Whatever's happening, we're in this together," Sam insisted. Before I could argue, we exchanged glances and nodded, synchronizing our breaths. I knew that separating would only lead us both to the wolves. We carefully made our way deeper into the garage's shadows, on the lookout for other exits. Each step felt like it was drenched in the suspense of ambush. I barely whispered a plan of escape when I spotted a black sedan with its keys dangling from the ignition. "Wouldn't this be easy?" I muttered, glancing back to ensure the coast was clear. But another crash came from the other side, and the shadows flared with movement. "They're splitting up," I hissed. "Go!" With a swift motion, I flung the door open. The engine roared to life as Sam hurried into the passenger seat. The adrenaline coursed through me as I slammed the gear into reverse, squinting through the side mirror to make sure we weren't running into danger. The shadows moved closer. Too close. I slammed my foot on the gas, feeling the vehicle lurch forward, and the tires screeched as I veered out of the garage and onto the street. "Try the phone! Call for help!" Sam shouted, her focus mostly on the rearview mirror. I could see the figures emerging from the garage now, wide-eyed and furious. With trembling hands, I fished my phone out of my pocket. No signal. Only that menacing message staring back at me. Make it to the rendezvous point by dawn, or else. Damn it! I tossed my phone into the console, frustration surging. We're still being hunted. They could be waiting anywhere. "Maybe a diner or a busy street," Sam suggested. I nodded, steering with purpose. Each passing moment felt charged, like the calm before a storm. But soon I saw the neon lights of a diner glowing brightly just up the road. "Over there," I pointed, adrenaline igniting my resolve. We might have a chance. A public place could deter further threats. But just as I swung into the parking lot, I saw them again. A group of figures loomed at the diner's entrance. My chest constricted. They weren't going to let us out of this alive. "Mark!" Sam squeaked in horror. "What do we do?" My mind raced. Could I face them? I had no idea what I was up against, but panic was steadily giving way to determination. I remembered the figure's warning. Maybe if we could get to the bathroom and hide. No. We needed a real plan. "Stick with me," I uttered through gritted teeth, shifting the car into drive. I'm not playing their game. As our hearts thudded in tandem, I slammed my foot on the gas and tore onto the main road, leaving the diner in our rear view. I didn't know where we were heading, but anywhere felt better than the suffocating threat behind. "How far can we go?" Sam asked, and I could hear the grim desperation fill her voice. "Long enough to figure out our next step. Just keep looking for signs. Anything that feels safe," I said, gripping the wheel, forcing my mind to focus. In the back of my mind, questions bubbled like a brewing storm. What would happen if I failed to reach that rendezvous point? What was this mess gripping my life? And yet, as we drove through the darkness, I felt the twinges of resolve tightening within. As shadows chased us through the night, I took a deep breath, knowing that while I might not yet know the full truth, I was still fighting for my life. And whatever secrets had been encoded in the swirling chaos of my past would have to wait.